In December 2018, Liverpool City Council published images of the proposed major transformation of the area around Lime Street Station, in the heart of the city. Earlier versions of the plans had included dedicated cycle lanes, but these had now been removed. This seemed at odds with its far-reaching and comprehensive paper entitled Liverpool's Cycling Revolution, a 55-page statement of intent published back in 2014. This promised great things for the city's cycling infrastructure. But nearly 5 years on, it was hard to see how these plans have been implemented. I've been talking to campaigners, experts and enthusiasts about cycling in the city today from many different perspectives, and I've travelled further afield to see what we can learn from some of our more bike-friendly counterparts.
The reason we're here today is to let city leaders and the Metro Mayor know they really need to start giving cycling the priority that it deserves. We are in the midst of a climate crisis, and there's a lot of concern about air pollution and the harm that's doing to children and to people's health. We've also got obesity on the rise, and we've actually got the most dangerous roads in the country here in Liverpool.
What we've been provided with today at the City Region Authority meeting is a map, which is a very small map, just on an A4 piece of paper, showing some proposed schemes. These are fairly easy places which don't disrupt traffic, which don't disrupt the normal mode travel chosen by people.
A cycle lane that was planned for outside Lime Street has recently been dropped by Liverpool Council off the back of 1 or 2 complaints, and that just shows the lack of commitment to really good cycle infrastructure.
We need to be much more ambitious than what this proposal is here. There's £8.33 million going in. There needs to be a lot greater sort of spend. I think you'll find Greater Manchester spending £13 million on a single road and junction to improve that for cyclists.
My name's Alan Johnson, I'm chair of Merseyside Cycling Campaign. As you can see, this is a really busy junction, and there is an awful lot of space as well, and yet at the same time there's very few facilities for cycling. There are no cycle lanes, and people have said to me from abroad when they come here that this isn't really a cycling city, and I think that's a shame, because Merseyside could be a fantastic place for cycling, and I think everybody needs to work harder to make that happen.
It's easy to see why cycling has not been taken up here, like it is in other cities of the UK and Europe. You have to mix it with the buses, the lorries and the cars on major routes. It just doesn't feel safe. The older cycle lanes are literally wearing out, and the new ones have not always been thought through carefully enough.
We're just at the end of Hatton Gardens at the junction with Dale Street. As you can see, there's a cyclist dismount sign, but there's no signage where cyclists can go from here. They might have just come down from North Liverpool, and there's no signage of where to go.
We're now in Water Street. We're stood next to a cycle lane. It's not a finished article by any means, and in fact it can be seen that just beyond me the lane comes to an end. But Merseyside Cycling Campaign had worked with Liverpool City Council in the past to get this put in place, and this is certainly the sort of facility that we should be seeing a lot more of.
There's a shared road, a shared pavement area, which is often very busy with pedestrians, leading up to a very short stretch of cycle track, but then you have to give way to the side roads. It's sending the wrong message that cyclists don't have priority here.
I'm Derek Gould, and I'm a retired medic, and I'm currently chairman of Merseyside, Cycling UK Merseyside. It's an incredible boost for health to cycle, and there was an interesting study in Copenhagen around the time when cycling infrastructure was being introduced into that city. Comparing before and after, cardiovascular acute admissions dropped by 30%.
Look at public health. If people are out getting more exercise, that's fantastic. The cost of maintaining the roads for the high traffic volumes, if we could reduce traffic and get more people on their bikes and walking, for example, that would reduce the cost of maintaining a road. So for me, cycling really is like a silver bullet for so many of the issues that we face as a city, as a city region.
Cyclists have the lowest levels of pollution, and this has been done by looking at carboxyhemoglobin, which is one of the products in exhaust fumes that's absorbed rapidly into the blood and is measurable. So if you measure carboxyhemoglobin, it's highest in drivers, next highest in pedestrians, and lowest in cyclists.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really difficult about cycling in Liverpool at the moment is, one, there are very few cycle lanes anywhere. Where cycle lanes do exist, they tend to be in very poor condition. There's often a lot of potholes in them, or they're full of broken glass. And obviously for me on 3 wheels, it's much harder to avoid potholes and broken glass.
Breeze Rides is an initiative by British Cycling. I qualified as a Breeze Ride leader in June, and I've led several rides together with my friend Helen. And we try to encourage women who have never cycled before, or women who have just picked up cycling after a very, very long break, to gently just get into cycling. Very little of it is actually on the roads. So women who haven't cycled before, they feel safe to do that.
Even when there is cycling infrastructure, it's often designed with the idea that someone can just hop off their bicycle, pick it up over a gate, climb over some steps. Having stepped curbs into segregated cycle lanes, which means disabled cyclists either can't get in or out of them.
I don't allow for any spontaneity when we're out with the kids. I need to know, in order to feel safe, I need to know what's the next step and where it is that we're going to be turning. So if there were more cycle routes and segregated cycle lanes, we wouldn't have to do that.
Make it easy for anyone to cycle, whether they're 12 years old or older. It shouldn't just be something that the brave do, but anybody who just feels like they want to use cycling as their means from getting from A to B.
On a cold February morning, a gathering called 300 Bikes took place in the city centre to highlight the appalling figures for under-18s fatalities in the Liverpool city region. The word spread on social media, and the turnout showed there's growing concern and support for change.
Liverpool, sadly, is at the top of the league table for killed or seriously injured, and by improving cycle facilities and walking facilities, perhaps we can lower some of these figures to something which is, acceptable, if any death of a person is acceptable on the roads.
I've been working as a medical statistician, and I've looked at the cycling statistics. Liverpool's got the highest rate of seriously injured cyclists in the metropolitan boroughs in the country. And looking around Liverpool, I think you can see why I've now done 9 sets of analyses, and I've tried to publicise them as best I can. But there seems to be a decision in the authorities to ignore them as much as possible.
So today in Merseyside, the perception is that cycling is a high-risk manoeuvre.
The council is good at saying the right words, and not long ago they passed a motion for Vision Zero, a vision of zero road deaths and serious injuries, but then did nothing to put that into practice.
I've not seen any evidence that Liverpool City Council has actually adopted Vision Zero as policy. And are you going to do that? And when are you going to do that, Liverpool City Council? I'm hoping you will. But that's the beginning of a way forward, at least, that it's in the minds of the councillors. And for the future, it's the only objective you can have. I mean, how many children should we kill on the roads each year? Yeah, well, the only answer to that is zero.
I wanted to see what we in Liverpool could learn from possibly the most bike-friendly place in the world, the Netherlands. Cyclists have had their own struggles here in the past, so I went to Amsterdam to find out a bit more.
I am Marjolein de Lange. I'm a traffic consultant working on cycling, walking and road safety. and I'm an active member of Fietsersbond Amsterdam, which is the cycling campaign in Amsterdam. The city was built for it, narrow streets, lots of short distances. This changed after the Second World War when we got more and more cars. And then the city was actually overwhelmed with all the cars.
My name is Meredith Glazer. I'm a researcher at the University of Amsterdam at the Urban Cycling Institute. There were streets being bulldozed in Amsterdam to make these grand boulevards, and the residents at the time did not want that. Parked cars were everywhere. You know, congestion was plaguing all the cities.
All the cyclists that were there, they were slowly pushed out of the streets because we got more and more cars.
A lot of people were unhappy about the way that the city was dealing with the expansion of roads for cars. And this meant the devastation of many neighborhoods in the city of Amsterdam. Citizens were not okay with this. They really wanted to take the city back. And finally, after a lot of riots, actually deadly riots, the planners' sort of mind changed. But it was after a lot of fights.
It took, like say, a decade of demonstrating, of protesting, and then in the end of the 70s, the city council was newly elected, and then the city council really became more bicycle friendly and more willing to push back a little bit, step by step, the cars. If you can reduce the number of cars in the city becomes healthier and the city becomes more mobile. And you can do that if you have an alternative like this, bicycling. Many people take their bike to the train, they take the train, and then here in Amsterdam they have a second bike at the railway station.
Oh, okay. So that's why there's so many bikes.
There's so many bikes. That's the reason why there's so many bikes at the station.
I see a lot of individuals who come to me and they say, I don't even know what that would feel like, biking to work. It's about changing their mental models. It's about changing the way that you see the world.
You know, I'd like to see a cycling czar along the lines of, you know, Chris Boardman over in Manchester. Someone that could actually drive this forward, independent almost of the council.
I think it would be really important if Liverpool is going to take cycling forward that it starts by using the inclusive cycle design to make sure we've got the most inclusive and the most progressive cycling.
This is a wide road with room for segregated cycling, and it could really be a fantastic facility here, which would be good for tourists, for commuters, and could be used by anybody from children right the way up to old age pensioners.
If you make cycling easier and faster or quicker than a car, then, well, it's very attractive to do it. You don't have to think it's healthy or, you know, to have to make sacrifices for your health. You do, that's not so important.
To me, discouraging car usage should be the first step. Disincentivizing people going in cars to do their short journeys.
Yeah, we need to get that critical mass going. People need to see other people cycling. It needs to become just a mainstream way of getting around Liverpool.
We have to talk about cycling not as a sports activity, you know, not as an activity that's for an elite member of society.
You need to push back the car and to give more space and give more safety for cycling. You cannot do it overnight, so you need a plan to do that, step by step.
The health and environmental benefits of cycling are clear, but it seems that until the authorities in Liverpool are prepared to listen to cyclists about the long-term strategy for the city, they'll continue to take to the streets to make their views known and to demand that their safety and well-being are taken seriously.